In early September, everyone gathers in Cancun in Mexico for the 5th WTO Ministerial Conference. This luxurious setting is the backdrop for discussions on issues of inequality and poverty, including the cotton initiative submitted by the African countries. But the ministers from Mali, Benin, Chad and Burkina Faso aren't relaxing by the pool. After the blow they delivered in Geneva 3 months earlier, the Africans haven't come to Cancun to go sightseeing. Before the conference has even started, the interests of Europe and the United States are bypassed by the courageous German Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development. She invites the African ministers to plead their cause before a group of journalists.
Pressure must be put to end this type of subsidizing from the European Union, although the subsidizing in the European Union is not as huge as it is in the United States. But millions of people are suffering from the fact that there is unfair competition and raising poverty, and the international society has promised that we want to reduce poverty, and we have to obey also our own commitments.
There was a third important force in Cancun, and that was the development ministers. For the first time, there weren't just trade ministers there, but also development ministers, saying, well, if this is a development round, we have something to say.
The presence of the development ministers in Cancun allows certain contradictions to be pointed out for the first time.
What we've stigmatized through this initiative is the ever-increasing inconsistency in our partners' policies. On the one hand, they've urged us to increase cotton production as a powerful way of reducing poverty in our countries. And on the other hand, this is a product where better competitiveness, which is the basis of international trade, is completely wiped out by subsidies.
There is no point in granting aid for Mali, for instance, of, let's say, $30 million a year, if at the same time Mali loses nearly $40 to $45 million every year on cotton because of the subsidies paid by developed countries to their farmers. Fighting poverty can only make sense if Africans can make a living from their work. And the situation is made worse by the fact that it's farmers, the poorest people, who are involved in the cotton problem. There is no point in creating ministries of cooperation and development in most developed countries. What are they going to develop? On the one hand, they give $1 million for development, and on the other, their ministries of economy, finance and agriculture do everything they can to make cotton prices fall. So whatever countries produce, they lose.
That was why the cotton debate was perfect. It showed how inconsistent development policies and domestic agricultural or trade policies were. If you need to balance your different objectives, domestic interests usually win out, not foreign interests. So we have to take on board the fact that development issues are likely to come second.
The day before the conference. On the eve of combat, the Africans make their intentions clear. Nothing has changed since their last meeting in Geneva in June. The ministers are calling for the total abolition of cotton subsidies in Europe and in the United States.
We suggested 3 years for a total end to subsidies, 2004, 2005 and 2006. But until then, a solution has to be found for the millions of farmers who are living in abject poverty, dying of disease, starving because they can't earn enough money to make a decent living. So we suggested a compensation mechanism for the financial losses incurred by African countries. We're not asking for quotas, we're not asking for advantages, we're not asking for prices. We're simply asking for free trade and the law of supply and demand to be respected.
The plenary session at the official opening of the Cancun summit. There is no observation round, and the ministers from Mali and Benin take the floor to denounce the injustice once again.
2,500 big American producers get an average subsidy of $1,080,000 every year. That's the equivalent of the total income of 3,000 small African producers who live on $1 a day.
We would like to see the WTO as an efficient and capable doctor who takes action in time to cure a pernicious illness, not a forensic scientist coming in after the death of a competitive industry, just to certify the cause of death.
As the applause makes clear, the ministers have got their message across. Now it's time for Europe and the United States to react. Pascal Lamy, European Trade Commissioner, justifies the European position with an attack on the United States, without naming names, of course.
We know that world cotton prices are set by the biggest producing and exporting countries, for some of them by their internal support system.
The United States simply tried to sidestep the question by refusing to debate.
That the problems affecting cotton exceed way beyond the issue of subsidies. In order to effectively address the concerns raised, we feel it's important to look at the range of critical factors affecting the price of cotton. Cotton is a key input in an integrated global manufacturing chain stretching from fiber to textiles to clothing.
Suddenly there is a minor miracle. Dr. Supachai, Director General of the WTO, whose position means he must remain absolutely neutral, speaks out for the first time to express his personal view.
I do not normally speak on these occasions, but nevertheless my remarks are intended to convey the importance that I attach to this subject. Let me start by recalling that the proponents of the Cotton Initiative, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, and Benin, are not asking for preferential treatment, but for an end to distortions caused by subsidies. I would urge ministers to give this proposal the very serious consideration that it undoubtedly deserves. Our meeting in Cancun is an opportunity to make progress on this issue.